that you? Hi. How are you? What you knitting? I'm so glad to get to see you again. This is my last episode of the series. I wanted you to kind of experience a little bit about what knitters might like to read, called knitting literature. Usually fiction, but always enjoyable to a knitter because it's something that we talk about. It's our language, isn't it? I'm so glad that you've been able to join me for these few episodes. I just wanted to, encourage your knitting, encourage your reading at the same time. I was going to do, for this last episode, um, Agatha Christie's Miss Marple series. Unfortunately, I couldn't find a chapter that was just about Miss Marple knitting. So, go read that series. I know you'll enjoy it, but for now, it's kind of a goodbye. I found a new book on the library shelf that I've been reading, and I wanted to share that with you. Knitting Yarns, edited by Ann Hood. A lot of you know that name. Ann Hood has put together a book of famous authors talking about knitting. Lots of famous authors in here. Some you may have heard of, some might be new to you, but I bet you didn't know that they had knitting somewhere in their storyline. How cool is that? So, the one I wanted to share with you today from this book was, I thought, especially beautiful. It is by Barbara Kingsolver, who wrote the Poisonwood Bible. That was famous, pretty hot on the top reading list a couple of years ago, so you may remember that name. I wanted to share the one chapter with you called, from this book, Where to Begin. And I think this is Anne's description of it. It says, the writer looks at all the ways it begins. It starts with the weather. Comes a day when summer finally gives in to the faintest freshet of chill and a slim new light, and just like that, you're gone. Wild in love with the autumn proviso, you can see the standing trees are all busy lighting themselves up from ember orange around the hemline, starting their ritual drama of slow immolation. Oh well, you see it all. The honking chain gang of boastful geese overhead that are fleeing Wormwood Hoe, chuckling over their big escape. But not you. One more time, here for the duration, you will stick it out through the famous Apley wood smoke season that opens all hearts' doors into a kitchen industry and soup on the stove. The signs wink at you from everywhere, sticks of kindling in the fire, long white brushstrokes of snow on the branches. This is the whole world calling you to take up your paired swords against the brace of oncoming freeze. The two-plied strands of your chromosome have been spun by all thin-skinned creatures of all time, and now they offer you no more bottomless thrill than the point-nosed plow of preparedness. It begins on the morning you see your children's bare feet swinging under the table while they eat their cereal cold, and you shudder from stem to stern like a dog hauling up from the lake, but you can't throw off the clammy pall of those little pink palmy feet. You will swaddle your children in wool, in spite of themselves. It starts with a craving to fill the long evening down slant. There will be whole wide days of watching winter dragger skirts across the mud yard from east to west, going nowhere. You will want to nail down all those wadded handfuls of time, to stick pin them to the blocking board, frame them on a 24-inch gauge, 10 to the inch, 10 rows to the hour, struggling trellises of days held fast in the acreage of a shawl. Time by this means will be domesticated, and it cannot run away. You pick up sticks just because time is asking for it, already lost before it arrives, scattering trails of leavings. The frightful movie your family has chosen for Friday night, just for instance, they insist it will be watched. And so, with the one lamp turned on at the end of the sofa, you can be there too, keeping your hands busy and your eye shades half drawn. Yes, people will be murdered, cars will be wrecked, and you will come through in one piece, plus a pair of mittens. It's all the same wherever you go. The river is rife with doldrums and eddies, the waiting room, the plane, the train, the learned lecture, the meeting. Oh, sweet Mother of Christ, the meeting. The PTA, the town council, the school board, the board, the interminably haggled items of the agenda. Your feet want to run for their lives, but your fingers know to dig into the bag and unsheath their handy stays against impatience. The smooth oared rose, the sturdy lifeboat of yarn. This giant unwieldy meeting may bottom drag and list on its keel, stranded in the Sargasso Sea of agenda, but you alone will sail away on your thrifty raft of unwasted time. You alone are swaddling the world in wool. Strangely, it also begins with the opposite, a hankering to lose time and all sense of purpose, to banish all possibilities, the winter and the summer, the bare feet under the table, the shattered day undone, and dregs of old regard and bitter unsettled tea leaves, and the words forever jostling ahead of each other in line, queuing up to be written, especially those words that drub on the skull's concave inner wall, words that are bigger in a linear flock, pelting themselves in ruined fury all night long against the window pane. Nothing can stop the words so well as the mute alphabet of knit and purl. The curl of your cupped hand scoops up long drinks of calm. The rhythm you find is from inside, rocking the cradle, heartbeat in ocean, waves on a rockless shore. Sometimes it starts terribly, with the injury or the accident, the wrecked life flung down like a loud armload of broken chair legs on your doorstep. Here lies the recuperation, whose miles you can't even see across, let alone traverse. Devil chasm of woe, uncrossable by any known bridge, here lies you. And in comes the friend, bearing needles of blonde bamboo, twin shafts of light, and ombre skeins of graded shades that march through the stages of grief, burnt umber to ochre to gold to dandelion. She's not in a listening mood, the friend. Today she commands you to make something of all of this, and to your broken heart's surprise, you do. It begins with the circle of friends. There is always something beyond your beyond. The aged parents, the teenagers who crack up the family cars on the self-same day. There is the bone-picked divorce, the winter chemo, the gorgeous mistake, the long unraveling misery that needs company, reading glasses and glasses of wine, and all the chairs pulled into the living room. Project bags bulge like sacks of oranges, ripe for beginning. Cast on, knit two together, girlfriend-wise. Rip it, pick up the pieces where you can, along the headless yoke or scandalously loose button placket. Pick up and knit. Always you will have to keep two projects going. First, the no-brainer stocking knit that can run on cruise control when the talk is delicious, and the other one, the brainer, the maddening intarsia or the fussy fair isle you'll save for a day when the chat gets less interesting, though it never really does. Knitting only makes the talk go softer as long as it needs to be, fondly ribbed and yarned over, loosely structured or not at all, with embellishment on every edge. Laughter makes drop stitches. It begins with a pattern. The arresting helical twist of a double cable, a gusset, a hexagon, a spiral, a fractal, an open-work ladder, an Aran braid, a chevron and the leaf, the eyes of the lynx, the traveling vines. The mimsy camisole you arguably could live without, the munificent cardigan you need, a mitten lost in childhood returned to you in a dream. A pattern in a magazine devised, of course, to tantalize. More embarrassing yet, the pattern hallooing from your neighbor's sweater while you're trying only for small talk, distracting until you finally have to stop, apologize, and ask permission to stare and memorize the lay of her sweater's land. And once it all starts, there's no stopping. The frame of your double points is a sturdy raised bed from which you cultivate the lively apical stem of sock, sleeve, stocking, cap. It's all in the growing. From the seed of pattern, the cotyledons of cast-on, everything rises, the xylem and phloem of KP ribs, a trunk of body and branches of leaves, the skirt that bells downward, daffodil-wise. You with your needles are a god of this wild botany. It begins the first time you take the familiar map in hand, scowling over it with all the best intentions, and then throw it over your shoulder and head out to uncharted waters where there be monsters. Only there you will discover the promised land of garment heretofore undevised, gloves for the extra long of hand, or short, or the firecracker nephew with one digit missing in action, sweaters for the short-waisted, the broad-shouldered, the precise petite. So they are lining up, friends and family, all covetous of the bespoke, because your best beloveds are human after all, and not off the rack. You can envelop each of these in the bliss of a perfect fit. And a perfect color. It starts there too. Every eye has hungers all its own, the particular green silver of leaves overturned by the oncoming storm, an alkaline's desert russet bronze, a mustard of Appalachian spring, some bright, spectral, intangible you find you long to possess. Colors are fertilized in vitro, and the careful spoon and the potent powder weighed to the iota, born by baptism in the big dye kettle hauled onto the stove. Flaccid beige hangs backstroke listlessly in the boiling ink, waiting to be born again until some perfect storm of chemical zeal moves them suddenly to awaken and drink down all the dye molecules in a trice. Like a miracle, the dark liquid goes clear as water before your very eyes. Afterward, the damp yarn sings its good news from dripping loops in the laundry room, waiting to meet the pattern, the wish, the cool weather, the living room, the days-long patient fortune. But it starts with a texture. There was nowhere near enough words for this, but fingers can sing whole arpeggios at a touch. Textures have their family trees. Cloud and thistledown are cousin to cat pelt and earlobe and infant scalp. Petal is also a texture, and lime peel and nickelback and nettle and 5 o'clock shadow and sandstone and ash and soap and slither. Drape is the child of loft and crimp. Whirl is a stalwart crone who remembers everything, while empty-head, white-haired cotton forgets. And in spite of their various natures, all these strings can be lured to sit down together and play a fiber concerto whole in the cloth. The virgin fleece of an April lamb can be blended and spun with the fleece of a fat blue hare or a twist of flax, anything, you name it. Silkworm, floss, or twiny bamboo, creatures never known to converse in nature can be introduced and then married right on the spot. The spindle is your altar, you are the matchmaker, steady on the treadle, fingers plying the helices of a beast in its unlikely kin, animal and vegetable, devising your new and surprisingly peaceable kingdoms. Fingers can coax and read and speak, they have their own secret libraries and illicit affairs and conventions. Twined into the wool of a hardy ewe on a shearing day, hands can be read in the history of her winter. How many snows, how many barren, or how sweet her mangers. For best results, stand in the pasture and throw your arms around her. Because really, it does start there. In the barn on shearing day, the circle of friends again, assembled for shearing and skirting. One whole fleece, shorn of a piece, is flung out on a table like a picnic blanket surrounded by women. All hands point toward the center like an excessive introverted clock, the better for combing the white fleece with all those fingers. Combing the black fingers can see the dark and to pull out twigs, manure tags, and cockleburs. White fleece is shaken free of second cuts, rolled and bundled and stacked, ready for spinning. Look for all the world like loaves on a bakery shelf, of bread on a bakery shelf, or sheaves of grain, or any other money in the bank. The universal currency of a planet where people grow cold. On shearing day, all ledgers will be balanced. The sheep line up in the gates, are woolly by morning and naked by night, as the barrows fill and the spindles make ready, and warmth is bankrolled in futures. 6 women can skirt a fleece in 10 minutes, just enough time to run and collect the next one, so long as the shearer is handy. It starts early this day and goes long. It starts in the barn on other days, too, every morning of the year, in fact. The sheep are both eager and wary at the sight of you, the bringer of hay, the reaper of wool, as you enter the barn for the daily accounts. You switch on the overhead bulb and inhale the florid scents of sweet fed and hay and mineral urine, and where they stand all eyeing you with horizontal pupils, reliably here for every occasion, the blizzard nights and early spring mornings of lambing. You hurry out at dawn to find dumbfounded mothers of twins licking their wispy, trembling slips of children, exhorting them to look alive in the guttural chortle that only comes into the throat of a ewe when she's just given birth. The slow-eyed flock mistrust you fundamentally, but still they will all come running when you shake the exquisite bucket of grain, the money that talks to yearlings and cherry wethers alike. The loudest of all to the ravenous barrel-round pregnant ewes. They gallop home with their udders toiling like church bells. In all weather you will take their measure and send them out again into the pasture. And oh, how willingly they return to their posts, with their gentle, gear-grinding jaws and slow, thickening wool under a winter's advance, beginning your sweater for you at the true starting gate. Everything starts, of course, with the sheep and the grass. Beneath her green scalp the earth frets and dreams and knits herself wordless. Between her breasts on all hillsides too steep for the plow, the sheep place sharp feet on an invisible path and lead their curly-haired sons and daughters out onto the tart green blades of eternal breakfast. It starts on tumbled-up lamb spring mornings when you slide open the heavy barn door and expel the pronking gambol of newborn wild hooray into the daylight, and the summer haze when they scramble up to the boulders and scan the horizon with eyes made to fit just so, horizontal eyes flattened to the shape of the legions of distant skulking predators avoided for all time. And in the gloaming, when the ewes high up on the pasture suddenly raise their head at the sight of you, conceding to come down as a throng in the rocking horse gate, surrendering under dog press to the barn-tendered mercy of nightfall. It starts where everything starts, with the weather. The muffled blind snow, the dingle springs, the singular pursuit of cud, the fibrous alchemy of the herd spinning grass into wool. This is all your business. Hands plunged into the froth of yarn are as helpless as hands thrust into a lover's hair, for they are divining the grass pelt of life, of everything, the world. The sunshine, heavenly photosynthetic host, sweet leaves of grass all singing the fingers electric that tingle to brace the coming winter, charged by the plied double helices of all creatures that have prepared and justly survived on the firmament of patience and swaddled children. It is all of a piece, knitting, all one thing. Wasn't that beautiful? I hope you liked it. I loved it when I read it to myself the first time. Thank you for joining me for this series. I hope that you found something that speaks to you in your language of knitting. Thank you for paying attention to my little series. As I can get my hands on them, I might be able to add a few episodes here and there, but 8 for now was pretty much my goal to get you started. Thank you for joining me. My name's Tammy. You can find me as Wearing Purple on Ravelry. In Twitter, I'm Wearing Purple 1 because Wearing Purple was already taken. I'm also on Facebook, and I have a group there called Pursuit of Happy Knits. I hope you'll find me and join me in sharing what we love, being happy, and knitting. There are 2 podcasts that I would recommend to further your love of knitting and books. One is KNITLIT, which is narrated by Heather Ordover. She is reading my favorite books, the classics. These are all books over 100 years old, and she explains them as a professional high school English teacher can, so that we can we can compare what is happening in the olden days to what is happening to us in our times. They're not all about knitting, but she advises that when you're knitting, you can stick a book in your ear and be entertained. The second podcast that I would recommend about books and knitting is Two KNITLIT Chicks. That's the number 2, KNITLIT Chicks. This is a mother and daughter, Tracy and Barb. Actually, Barb is the mom, Tracy's the daughter. But they share their love of reading. They are voracious readers. You can find them on Goodreads and follow what they're reading right now. It's very common for me to find that I've read something that they are reading too. So, and of course, they are avid knitters as well. So you can hear what they're currently working on and their love of what they're getting done. Right now I know Barb is knitting mother bears for charity, which is awesome. So I hope you'll find them and let them know Tammy sent you if you'd like. I don't mind. I'm sure they'd like to hear from you. So thank you for joining me again, and I'll see you around. Happy summer, happy knitting, happy reading. Bye.